What's going on, guys? I'm here to finally bring about the long-awaited video I promised to make on the matchup that I think is the most interesting matchup in the game at the moment, and that is Pontus versus Numidia. Very fun matchup, very dynamic matchup. I played a lot, and I want to just talk about what makes the matchup interesting, why it's very dynamic for both sides, and then give some examples of, the matchup in action, mistakes, good play with both factions, and, that kind of thing. So we will hopefully see some good ideas there to improve the knowledge around the matchup, what you want to do with both sides. So first, let's go over the factions real quick. Let's bring up Numidia on that side, Pontus on this side. So we'll start with Numidia, and we'll talk about sort of general ideas, but we can start about like what units are important. So we can talk about this unit. I'm just saying this unit as I bring them out, but we should just get all of them together here, and then we'll talk about what matters. So these are these are like the core units, you could say, for Numidia. Good variety, as we can see here. We have Jav Cav, we have Shock Cav, Melee Cav, Peltis, Slingers, Melee, and Spears. Good variety there. I guess we can just go unit by unit here. So the heavy Numidian skirmishers, the Pontus, are a crucial unit for Numidia. They are only light, but they have high armor, 45 armor for a Peltis, 55 health, good morale, actually very good morale for a Peltis. And of course they have very good missile damage and very good melee stats, so they can function, especially in melee locked rule sets like 4-6-12 or something. They can function as additional melee infantry after they've utilized all their javelins. And the really important thing is they really won't die to a single charge. So you can let them, obviously you don't want them to be isolated so they can just they will die to cavalry, but if they just are going to take one charge and then they can escape, they will not really suffer too badly to that, especially if they're full health. And they obviously have very damaging javelins, so cavalry charging them will take a lot of losses. So they can function, isolated, they can survive, they don't die to slinger fire with all that armor. And then they can kill stuff in melee, and of course, kill stuff with their javelins, most importantly. They also have quick reload, but I wouldn't suggest using it because getting your missile troops tired, not really a good idea in general. Makes them not fight very well in melee, it makes them easier to catch, easier to charge, all that, lowers their melee defense. So, yeah, so these guys are definitely the core part of Numidian armies because, again, Numidia suffers against cavalry in the sense that they don't have any of the good cavalry of their own, so they're utilizing anti-cavalry methods from their Jav Cav and their Peltis to kill enemy Cav. So these guys are very important to doing that, to killing enemy cavalry units. And then helping out the melee force, which can often be, you can often be outnumbered in melee department, especially, because you're not going to have any elite infantry. So these guys will help you in the late game because they'll be very fresh and they can go against tired melee units and destroy them, and then they kill cavalry to get your cav out of danger. Slingers, not super important for this matchup, Pontus versus Numidia, anymore. You can bring a couple slingers. These slingers are pretty bad, but they'll force the enemy, especially because Pontus probably isn't going to bring slingers. So if you have one or two of your own slingers, if you want to take them, it can force the enemy to come forward. You can shoot their light armor units and just like say, come at me, and that will make it easier for you to, get your charges and all that kind of stuff. And in the late game, of course, they are still deadly, but are they really going to survive? Probably not. Again, your cavalry is just so outmatched. It's tough to have your slingers survive. Better, I think, especially because they cost 270. I think it's better to bring the Vigiles, which we'll talk about later. And the slingers, they can work, but I think that's losing its place in the meta. But, a couple of them in this matchup is fine. Armored Desert Cav is the meat of the melee Cav force. Do not bring the light Cav because they're light, and do not bring the Legionary Cav because they're bad. The Armored Desert Cav are the only Cav, melee Cav at least, that you should be bringing as Numidia ever. They're decent, but they're no match for the Pontus Cav, obviously, so, you have to take them. And you might say, oh, I'll just bring no Cav and bring more Peltis and stuff. Yeah, but you need some Cav to protect your flanks, because, like, Pontic cavalry will get into your rear eventually, even if, if you have no cavalry of your own, you can't block any charges, they can just YOLO charge you with a couple Cav, they can flank, there's problems with that. So I think 2 to 3 armored desert cav, very standard. Alternatively, you can take the armored Numidian riders, and this is very nice against Pontus because Pontus, potentially at least, will have naked warriors or Celtics, both very light and very susceptible to cav charges, and even against Pontic swords or something, you can just charge them with these guys. And they also do good damage to Cappadocians. Now, they don't win against Cappadocians by any means, they actually lose horribly, but especially if the Cappadocians are starting to take damage from Peltis and from Javcav and stuff, then these guys actually become very good because they'll kill a lot of men on the charge. And so you can just charge in and retreat and actually not take that much damage from the Cappadocians. Of course, you never want to be locked into melee. The problem with these guys is their armor is shit, so javelin volleys will be devastating. And you also have to spend quite a bit, 690. That's almost as much as a Thessalian without the charge bonus, and not really as good stats. Actually, only 40 armor. I said 45. I think I was looking at the armor desert cav, but also not great cav here, but of course armor here. But of course they have shields, whereas the armored minion riders really do suffer against missile fire, against javelins. So be careful with that. Again, they're really a tool to damage Cappadocians by when you have infantry support, of course, so you can pull out immediately, and to charge isolated um, Celtics or Nakeds, and that will at least force Pontus to countercharge you, basically, with their own cavalry, and then your Peltis can come in there and shoot. Of course, when your Peltis shoot into a blob with armored minion riders and Cappadocians, you're going to inevitably kill quite a few of your own men, so not always ideal. But anyway, between these two, you can really bring either, or bring a mix. That also works. If you want to bring like 2 armored minion riders and a desert cav, and then your riders can like go in, and your desert cav can hold the rear. That also works. So that's your melee cav force. But the real meat of any Numidian army is the armored Numidian cavalry, the best unit in the game, pretty much for the cost. They are an elite Javcav unit with 45 armor, very nice, with shields, of course, 41 missile damage, javelins, 8 shot per minute, so very high SPM, 7 ammo, normal ammunition, but insane melee stats, 48, 36 weapon damage, so very good weapon damage, good charge at 36, so that's like, let's see, it's better, yeah, better than the armored desert cav. Of course, the armored minion riders are a shot cav, so 60 charge, so only 20 less charge, or 24 less charge than the shot cav itself. They are medium, I believe, no, heavy. So they do very good impact damage. You can see armored desert cav is medium, and armored minion riders are heavy, so good impact damage. Very fast because they have the minion horses, which are goated, and they're much faster than regular horses, so these guys are very quick. They are overall just exceptionally powerful units. They have a resistance to fatigue, so they don't really tire out that quickly. And they're just very hard to deal with because they kill any other Javcav in melee very easily. They will kill them on the charge because they're heavy, so they don't even have to go into melee and waste their time. They literally just charge in, will kill enemy Javcav, enemy horse archers, whatever, and they fire so quickly that they can damage, they can basically prevent flanking action from enemy cav because they just are so devastating. And again, if they get behind an enemy army, and even if they're being screened by horse archers or Javcav, they can still go after archers or slingers on the ground because, the enemy horse archers or enemy Javcav might shoot them, but they can't actually tangle with them in melee, so it's like free. They have to be watching these guys with melee cav at all times, and a horse archer ideally, so that the horse archer can bait out shots, and the enemy melee cav can stay back and protect the rear or whatever, or protect any isolated units. These guys are an absolute menace. They also are exceptionally excuse me. Sorry about that. They are also exceptionally important to keep alive because basically if these guys die, you lose so much control over the map, and Pontus has better units elsewhere to take advantage of that. So these guys are really a map control unit. They can take fights at the right moments, they can run away at the right moments, they can rear charge. If you leave units exposed, they can just rear charge them and run away. They're just absolutely devastating, but also have to be played with very carefully because if you lose too many men on them, they become too weak and they can't really influence the endgame. Whereas if they're alive and healthy in the endgame, if you don't use them enough before that, you might just lose the rest of your army. So very important unit, and we'll talk obviously a lot about how they get used. Desert Cohort for infantry. Don't really prefer using these guys. It's just so expensive. 980 for basically Evocati stats. So yeah, of course, okay, Evocati stats are quite good, but at the same time, you're paying, an extra 100 over what an Evocati costs. Actually, it might be more like better legionary stats than Evocati. Actually, I'm just gonna check this because I'm always confused. lose. Because 47 melee attack is not what everybody has. Yeah. Actually, it's neither. It's like a Principe. 47, 35, 14. 47, 35, 14. 60, 90, 60, 65, 60. Okay, so it has like Avocado armor. Or like maybe even armored legionnaire armor. So it has better melee defense. Or yeah, it's better melee defense, but way worse melee attack than Avocado, basically. Same armor, same health, same morale. They do have the desert bonuses, but again, that's not really that good. It's like a Principe attack-wise, an Avocado defense-wise. Well, actually better than an Avocado, I guess, because it's better melee defense. So it's good defensively, not as good as a Roman unit offensively. You get the good armor, you get the good health and morale, testudo, discipline, all that. But again, you're paying so much more for that. So again, when you're paying already 980 for, or 920, sorry, for these Numidian cav, potentially paying 690 for these riders, 540 for the peltist. You don't have a lot of money. You'd rather get the numbers. I don't think the desert cohort are quite worth it. The legionnaires, on the other hand, are still pretty good. You can see comparing the cohort and the legionnaires, right? You get the same attack stats, so they're gonna be very good. They're like a Principe attack wise. You just lose out on the defense. I think they actually have exactly the same stats as Principes: 14, 48, 80, 60. 14. No, okay, not quite. Okay. They have legionnaire stats basically. So not great. You are paying obviously 40 more than a legionnaire for exactly the same stats. But you're not Rome, so you shouldn't expect to have insane infantry. These guys are still very quality infantry units. They will hold the line. They'll be very good, and they're not so expensive. You know, you're getting a little more bang for your buck, I would argue. So having a core main infantry line to these guys is very good, and especially talking about the matchup against Pontus, they will destroy the Pontic swords in an isolated engagement. So that's a very nice boon. Then you have the Numidian light infantry. These guys are basically like in between Gallic warriors, or sorry, Celtic warriors and Galatian swords in terms of their quality. So quite good. They will only barely lose to Galatian swords, so they will be Celtics, pretty sure. Almost certain, in fact. They can guerrilla deploy, not super useful, I would just keep them with your army. But they have good attack stats, good weapon damage, not great, but good. Overall solid stats in the middle here, charge, melee defense, good armor for a cheap unit like this. 45 is on par with Celtics and Galatians. 50 health, very nice. 40 morale, quite good. But overall, we can look at a Celtic Warrior real quick, I guess. 27, 40, so they have better attack than a Celtic, bit worse weapon damage. 28, 47, 45 in the center there. 28, 47, 45, so yeah, better charge, a little worse defense, similar health and morale and all that. So yeah, they're quite good. They got that, you know, they have that cheap melee unit spot locked down, which again is very important because you're going to mix these with your Desert Legionnaire line to form sort of your main line of infantry, and it will be quite good, in fact. Like against Pontus has Celtics, so these guys are around the same quality as Celtics, so that's good for you. And they're also medium, so you know they can have a bit extra mass, whereas I think Celtics are light. Indeed they are. And so you know that'll be, you know, a pretty evenly matched battle there. You have much better mid tiers than Pontus does, although they're a bit more expensive. And then finally you have Desert Vigiles, and even in like TWL rules, for example, like no melee cap, these guys actually are still quite useful because they're so cheap. They're 240, so a bit more than a regular Vigile, but they do exactly the same thing as a regular Vigile. They got that 20 bonus versus large, so very good at helping kill Cav. They got, crucially, square formation, so they can literally just survive the entire game by sitting in square, unless they get attacked by melee infantry or whatever. And by going in square, it's a really key combo with your Peltists, because square units wrap around, Pelt to shoot them to the side. This is a very classic maneuver, and they can also take cavalry charges, right? You can just go into square and absorb those, so you don't have to countercharge with your cav, which you might not want to, because again, these guys are weak to javelin. So if you countercharge, you might get javelin. These guys are just weak in general, so you don't want to engage if you don't have to. So Vigiles allow you that little more comfort. They can screen your main line, let your Peltist like combo with them to protect your main line, and then your cavalry can play it a little bit safer and only engage if they have to, while your armored Numidian cav dominate the flank. So that's like the core units for Numidia. So nine units there. The only other ones I would ever see are potentially the Numidian Spearmen to do exactly the same thing as Vigiles, but the problem is they have no armor, so they just kind of die to Javelins, or Slingers, especially if they have Slingers. But if you're expecting Pont to not go Slingers, you could risk these guys. They're a bit cheaper. 30 bonus versus large, so you get a little bit more of that. But they have problems also. These Numidian Riders can be okay. They have no armor, but they have otherwise very similar stats to the armored Numidian Riders, and they're a bit cheaper. I mean, 250 cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. Good charge. They are also medium, so not too light, so that really helps. Unlike like Sarissa Cav, for example. But you know, the armor is pretty big weakness. These guys die quite quickly. They're good for like 1 or 2 charges, and they're just done. Sort of like Step Lancers, for example, very cheap ones. And other than that, never bring Numidian Cav. You can bring Gaetuli Horse Skirmishers if you go for like some weird infantry heavy build. They're just like a straight upgrade to the Numidians because they don't cost so much, and they can guerrilla deploy, I guess. Other than that, their armor is a bit less, but their Jav Cav, it doesn't really matter. And don't bring the Noble Cav. Not worth it. They're just a more expensive, slightly better, yes, than the armored Numidian Cav, but not worth the 280 coin diff. Elephants, you could see, chariots don't bring. Elephant, viable in some matchups, but we won't really talk about that because it's not very viable against Pontus. Talking about general choices real quick, I would always recommend putting the Peltist as the general, so I'll do that. There we go. The reason is because it's not going to get focused by slingers, and if it does, it's just like such a waste of time because it'll be in 2 lines, loose formation, good armor, shields, everything like that. So it's a very safe place for your general, and again, he's going to be with other peltists behind your infantry line, very well protected, so don't worry about cavalry. You know, obviously, if cavalry are getting your peltists anyway, you're already in a fucked position. This guy can be the center peltist, so it's not even, you know, at risk from the flanks. Whereas, like, the only other unit that's even in this group, right, is the Armored Numidian Riders. You can put your general in there, but then again, you're gonna, like, not want to use that general for the entire battle, because it's such a risk with the 40 armor. It can take 1 Javelin Volleyer, get stuck in 1 melee engagement, and just lose half the unit, and then your general's just fucked, so you want to be able to use your shock cav aggressively if you have them as Numidia in this matchup. It's just a lot more useful, I think, so you don't really want to put them in there, the general in there. I just keep them in the Peltis. There's no risk with that at all. Let's go to Pontus now. We can look at the key units for these dudes. So we'll start with the melee infantry. All 3 of these options are quite good. We'll talk about that. No spears, pikes, cheap ones, slingers. Don't bring Pontic Peltis. There's no point. Archers potentially instead of slingers, but again, that's not really relevant. Cavalry, definitely these guys, and then the Noble Bloods, and then either one of these. So let's go through everything sort of in order. Okay, so we're starting with cavalry, and well, for cavalry, Pontus's massive advantage in the matchup is in the cav department, and we start with the Celtic Warrior cav. So heavy, or very heavy, but like elite shock cav unit. Something that Numidia can't match at all, devastating against infantry. But obviously it does have the problem that it's facing Numidia, and this is a general problem that we'll talk about for all cav units for Pontus, is that they're facing a lot of javelins. So they have to be, you know, put into the right places to succeed. They can't take a lot of javelins earlier. They're just going to take too much damage, and they're not going to do enough to defeat, you know, like get enough kills against the infantry to win for Pontus. So yeah, definitely you should take these guys in the matchup. It's just about using them correctly. Even like 2 or even like 3 Pontic Royal Cav are potentially viable in this matchup. So they're, you know, because they're devastating. Very good charge, 76 charge. This is actually an insane charge bonus. Like, it's comparable to like your, you know, I think it's actually might be better than Companions. Or very comparable at least, let's see. Yeah, same as Companions. I'm gonna say it's better than the Egyptian one because I'm pretty sure they have shit charge. Yep, better than the Egyptian one. Same as the Hellenic Royal Cav. So, top tier, this is an elite shock cav unit, one of the best in the game. That isn't a cataphract, obviously, so one of the best Hellenic shock cav units. Good melee, great melee attack, great armor, good health, great morale, all that shit you'd expect. Just don't get them caught in melee, and they'll be alright. Next up is the best melee cav in the game for the price, Cappadocians. These guys are devastating. They have very good armor, great health and morale. They're combat stats are insane. They will beat any melee cav in the game for a similar price, or less, obviously. Easily, handily, no problem. Um, yeah, they're very strong. Of course, they're heavy, so they can take down, they can do damage with impact damage, with charges. They have a decent charge of 38, so they can, they do damage on the charge. These guys are the bread and butter of the Pontic army to cav spam against Numidia, so very useful. Noah Blood, just like Cappadocian's little brother, everything's a bit worse, but armor, health is the same, so you'll still have that survivability against javelins. I'm gonna push these Jav Cav off to the end because I don't want to talk about it yet. Slingers, okay, that's pretty normal stuff. You bring some slingers. Same thing as Numidia though, as I said before. You don't actually really want to bring slingers in this matchup. They don't get enough utility. They're always just the problem with them, right? Is they're always a threat for the Numidian Jav Cav to just KO. So you can bring them, but they're gonna die. So they have to be like a worthwhile bait, and they have to do some damage before they die, and you have to protect them as long as you can, and make Numidia really have to hunt after them with their Jav Cav before they go down. And that can be quite difficult because it also takes away slots from the rest of your army, and that can make your infantry weak or your cavalry not enough units to actually defend and attack, because Pontus generally has to be pretty aggressive in the matchup. Levy pikes, very useful. Of course, you might be saying, like, why are you going to take Levy pikes? There's so many javelins on the field. That is true, but again, the javelins have to be used wisely for Numidia. The peltas can't be shooting pikes all game because then they just won't do anything to the cav. You can keep the pikes at a safe distance, and what they do is it allows you to use your infantry on one side and pike wall basically the other side of the mainline engagement. The pikes, since your infantry is worse, right? The pikes allow you to slow down the Pontic infantry or the Numidian infantry advantage, and gives your cavalry more time. They're still tough to kill. They're surprisingly tough to kill. 60 armor, 45 health. They will not go down to frontal javelins very easily. It will take Numidia a lot of time and micro to eliminate them, and also resources that potentially they can't afford if your infantry is rushing one flank, for example, and the pikes are just blocking half of Numidia's army from attacking your other flank. You just commit full send on one side, and destroy one side. So the pikes are a very good utility tool, but they don't have to be brought. You can just go infantry spam. But I actually think the pikes are quite useful. Celtic Warriors, standard stuff, just very useful. The reason I would take them above Naked Warriors here, or Naked Swords, is they have Javelins, so that can be potentially quite helpful. But otherwise I would go for the Naked Swords, because again, for Pontus, they cost 30 less, or sorry, 100 less than they should, 30 more only than the Celtics, and they're obviously much better in melee. Way better stats across the board. They got that 15 bonus versus infantry. They got that high charge bonus, good melee defense, high health, high morale, good attack stats, especially with the bonus versus infantry, as I said. So these guys will destroy Dominion Lights, so that's very useful. They're very good on the charge at dealing damage to the Legionnaires for Numidia, and of course they also combo with the pikes quite well. You can charge in through the pikes and retreat, so you can get a lot of cycle charging done with your Nakeds, so that's always very useful. So these guys, yeah, probably a bit more meta than the Celtics, but either a mix or whatever you want, really. Both of them work very well. Pontic Swords, these guys, not great, but they're also, for the cost, they're honestly not bad. 620, they're not, they're nothing special in really any category, but they'll hold the line. They will lose to the Legionnaires, as we already stated, but, you have to bring them, because you have to kill, you need a killing force in your main line, and yes, the Nakeds and the Celtics can be, but they're too light to sustain. So these guys are a bit more sustained killing power, and you need that time for your cavalry to kind of win. And finally, the great debate is between what kind of horse archers or Jav Cav you take. So horse archers, the skipping horse archers, obviously are generally a better unit. They're, in an ideal world, they would be the unit you take every time. 40 missile damage, extremely cheap, more ammo, all that. They can harass the Numidian Cav throughout the game, but there's one big downside, and that is that they're actually very slow, especially in terms of acceleration and turning. So yes, you can harass those Numidian Cav, but really if you get too close and you fuck up for 1/2 a second, and you're turning as the Numidian Cav are already in range, you're not going to get out. And you might be like, well, these guys are very light or whatever, light, and the Numidians are heavy. right? How is that even possible? But again, these Numidian horses have a better speed statistic than the regular horses in Rome 2, so they're a bit faster. They literally almost have exactly the same speed, but the Numidians have far superior acceleration and turning. So you have to be extremely careful and play on the edge with these guys, so they can get shots on the Numidian cav or force the Numidian cav to like run away so they don't get hit by the shots, but also not get turned on and caught themselves, because those Numidian cav can easily catch them. Obviously, in melee, it's not really a contest. So the micro play, or like the human element, is to take the horse skirmishers, because they are much faster than the Scythian horse archers. They are also light, but I don't know, they have better turning, better mobility, and they have these 41 missile damage javelins. So the play with these guys is you just play very aggressively with them. You hound the Numidian cav and you say, either you're gonna waste javelins shooting the horse skirmishers with these very expensive and valuable armored Numidian cav, which the horse skirmishers can easily dodge, so making those those javelins useless, and potentially the horse skirmishers can also hit their own javelins, which do a lot of damage, 41 plus the 15 bonus versus large that all javelins have, and potentially kill or at least do health HP damage to the armored Numidian cav. So it makes that trade-off really not worth it for Numidia. Why would you take that exchange? It's just, you don't get no reward. Even if you hit the horse skirmishers and kill some of them, it's like, okay, it's still a waste of your javelins, essentially. So these guys are really good at just being annoying and actually regaining some space for Pontus, whereas if you have horse archers, you can probably get pushed back. Unless your micro is like really on point, you can get pushed back and the Numidians will take the space. So these horse skirmishers allow Pontus a little bit more space on the map, but they are less ideal because they can also run out of javelins. Numidia can easily bait the horse skirmisher javelins, and these guys are just fucking useless in melee. So, they can go after slingers or something, but if there are no slingers, these horse skirmishers literally can't do anything. And you're basically down 4 units as soon as the javelins run out. So you have to be extremely precise with how the javelins get used, but it also makes more problems for Numidia. So the horse archers are like a boost for yourself, whereas the horse skirmishers are a negative for the enemy, basically. So it's which one do you want to do? The horse skirmishers are less risk, less reward. The horse archers are more risk, but much greater reward as well. So yeah, so those are the core units for Pontus. So both of them. I was also gonna say, if you have extra money, regular pikes for the same purpose as levy pikes. If you have not enough money, archers instead of slingers for the same purpose. So that's like some basic, obviously those are just like regular upgrades. It's basically the same thing with the noble blood cap. Like, you should take Cappadocians, but if you need a little more money, just need to save some money, go for the noble blood cap, whatever. Not a huge problem, but ideally Cappadocians, ideally levy pikes, ideally Eastern slingers. So we can quickly look at some sort of meta armies here. I'll just do one for like TWL rules, basically. I don't usually take more than 7 melee for Pontus or for Numidia, because again, you want to have 4 Desert Legionaries. That's key. You can go 4 Numidian Lights potentially, but you'll see quickly how much the money runs out after you get the 4 Javcav. The 4 is the very, very standard number of Javcav to get if you're allowed to get 4. That puts 2 on each flank. They can work together. You don't want to have 1 on a flank. And if you get more than 4, I think you're just overspending for the same goal. Like, 4 cav can surround the enemy, so there's not much need for more than that. Then we need to get some cav, so let's start with this. So 3 cav. So this base is very good, and then what you do with the rest of this money, like you could go for slingers, but then you can see you run out of the money quite quickly. So you might go for this. For example, 3 Desert Vigiles. Sorta no slinger approach, but whatever. You can go like 2 Numidian light infantries and get them slingers. Maybe 3, 1 Vigile instead of light infantry. But anyway, something like this, pretty standard. You could also go for like 2 Peltists and some shock cav or something. Let's see. Maybe only like, let's go 3 shock cav, then you're kind of running out of money, but then you can just go for something like this. Lots of options. I would suggest going with what I said before, 3 Peltists, this base of melee infantry, and then the 3 Vigiles. That seems like the most standard. There's also like 4 Peltist armies, but that starts to get quite expensive. I think that used to be more standard when you could go for 2 Cav, but I think like 3 Cav is a little bit stronger than 4 Peltist. 3 Cav and 3 Peltist versus 4 Cav and 2 Peltist, but something like that. Play to how you want to play, right? Like, but I would say the 4 Desert Legionnaires and the 4 Armored Numidian Cav, and then at least 3 Peltist. Those are the standard parts of the army. Now for Pontus, there's a lot of ways to play this. I personally think that the melee spam approach is sort of the good idea, or the cav spam, sorry, so you get like a shit ton of cav. You could even get more, but we'll see how it goes. 4 Jav Cav, or Horse Archers, whichever one you're going to get 4 to counter exactly the Numidian ones. And again, if Numidia doesn't take 4, now you have an advantage somewhere and you can push the Jav Cav back and they don't take any space. Numidia kind of wants to have that space. Really, only to deny it to Pontus. Like, if Pontus can surround, it's very good because Pontus has the cav advantage. Then I get some of these guys, like, I don't know, 3, let's say, some naked swords, and let's go with some pikes. So, okay, that looks like a pretty normal army. There's a lot of options, as I said, though. For example, you could go with, let's see, if you could even go with this much cav. It's a crazy amount of cav, but you could do it, and you could just go for something like this. Maybe even get like Hillman or something, but let's try not to do that if possible. Yeah, you could do this, for example, or maybe go 1 less Cappadocian. It's probably a little more standard. Then you could go for something like this. Now you have 4 Cappadocians to fuck around with. You've got a shit ton of melee, 10 melee. And again, that's probably going to be around as much as Numidia, but not as quality. But you have so much cav, Numidia doesn't have to deal with that. You can surround, your Jav Cav can protect your guys. You can go like that. Or you could go for like less cav. Like maybe, I would still say like 5 cav is probably the minimum. You could get some slingers. Maybe like 3 pikes, better infantry. Let's say 5 of these guys. We still need the 4 Jav Cav. And then like a naked sword. So this would be a bit more defensive. You're going to play around your slingers. This could also be another slinger, potentially, right? You're going to have 5 cav for the end game. You're going to let your slingers... Yeah, actually, this is what I might do. Like, go 3 slingers. Just play defensively with your Pontic swords. Let your slingers, like, shoot things the entire game. Defend with your pikes. Defend with your cav. And then, you know, crush them in the late game with their cav. That's also an idea. So, bunch of different options for Pontus. Numidia, not so much, I'd say. But now let's go and look at some like strategies and stuff. Oops, not multiplayer battle. Wouldn't be ideal. Let's see. So, what's a good? I guess we'll just start with this really quickly because it shows one of the key ideas I was talking about, which is that the Jav Cav are a lot faster than the Horse Archers. So this was the final of a tournament between me and Sfados a while ago, 2019. He's got Scythian Horse Archers, I've got Jav Cav here. And you can see, like, if you play at the right distances, as Sfado's doing here, it's not a problem. We're both just dodging arrows, but the space is pretty equal. I'm pushing him back, but I can't really get too close. He's not messing up the micro, really. We could quickly go with the armies just if you want a couple other. I think this was max 8 melee, so I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 Legionnaires, 4 light infantry, 4 peltists, 2 vigiles, 1 desert cav, and 1 armored desert cav. Not an army I would take today, I'll be honest. This was a little too light on the cav, especially only having 2 and 1 of them being a desert cavalry. Very useless unit, as I already kind of stated. But it's quite heavy on the infantry. Safado has a cav spam. He's got 1 noble blood, 2 noble blood, 3 noble blood, 3 Cappadocians, 1 Pontic Royal Cav, 2 slingers, 2 Celtics, and 4 pikes. So again, just defending. These are regular pikes, so they're quite difficult to kill. So he's just gonna defend and use his cav and try to get to my peltis and stuff. So again, here's a mistake. Wait, maybe let's see. Maybe it's just in range. Yeah, I could have probably chased him there. You can see that these javelins were already hitting. A good rule of thumb is if the javelins are hitting the horse archers, you should chase because they're going to continue hitting. But here, again, he sort of messes up. This one's a bit more obvious, but obviously they're way too close to catch here. You can see that They don't really escape. Like, they're trying to run away, but they're not faster than my Cav. Over here, you can see same thing. Look how close he is. This time he's... Oh, I actually ran away. This was poor. I would have easily caught him there. But you could, we'll see. So yeah, again, these guys just get run down. Once they're in javelin range, they're fucked, basically. And so these guys are dead. And now here we go again. Here, you can see he's trying to escape. He wasn't caught, like, unlike on this side, he wasn't really actually caught. But you can see that he's eventually just gonna get caught. And yeah, so the javelins are hitting, it slows them down, they just get insta-caught, and that's pretty much it for the horse archers. So that's really not going to happen as much with the other guys, with the horse skirmishers, and the other key about them is that they can do a lot more damage back, whereas the horse archers really won't do that much damage quickly. We'll see one more time here. Again, okay, he's way too close here, so I guess. But yeah, once they're in javelin range, they're actually fucked. So, maybe not the best example of that, but that's just you know, how quickly the horse archers can fall. I think the best example is over here. We were chasing basically the same speed, but since I was in javelin range, I just caught a shit. So, anyway, that's just like a quick example. We can quickly watch the rest of this game. We can point out a couple of key ideas, but I think others will show them better. I think the goals, if we're talking about goals for each faction, the goal for Pontus is to get behind Numidia and go after the Peltis, kill their cavalry, and start getting recharges while blocking the Numidian cav with your HA. And the goal for Numidia is simply to just javelin the fuck out of the cavalry as much as possible. So here, again, this is what I was talking about, using square to bait for the cav. They lose, you know, 15 men on the charge. Here, I'll use my cav because I wasn't really in position. I was javeling all these guys, so now I'll just sacrifice the cav here to get more Peltis shots. You can see 2 Peltis already shooting onto these Noble Bloods, so they lose a ton of men. So nice. 2 cavalry already took massive damage. That's excellent for me. And I escape with this cav, so it can get one more charge block in there, essentially. And you can see here, like, just anywhere there's cav, I'm just going to try to javelin them. I'm not worried about his infantry so much. Especially here, he's taking such light infantry that I can just afford to take charges here. And my Peltis are always going to be in range. Here's General just get a nice charge. Well, again, now he has a problem, right? Because my Peltis, you can see, are about to target his General. My Jav Cav are behind. They can always just threaten his Cav from behind. I've actually brought these Jav Cav back since the fight is taking place on this flank. So again, using that mobility effectively. But just trying to javelin those Cav. Once all the Cav are weak, then you want to start using your Numidian Cav aggressively, since they can really do damage. So look at that. His Bro Cav took 30 losses. Pont Cav took 30 losses. Noble Blood and the Cappadocian took 30 losses. So half his Cav is down to half strength. And again, half strength Cav really doesn't scare me because they'll just die to a precursor volley. They'll die to a Cav charge. Not really a huge deal. Resetting here. My infantry, again, is doing fine. In these fights, it's not really a huge problem. And he's lost a lot of his initiative. He wasn't playing on both flanks either, so now I can just reset my lines and ready for myself for more Cav. So again, he comes in here, but he didn't want to take this charge. The Gile is screening well here. Some Cav are going to go in, but now my Cav actually can clean up this Cav. It actually becomes a close fight, but all my armored Numidians are in support. I actually lost one to his Cav that he just chased me with, but that's fine. Or not really, obviously not ideal, but it's okay. Now I'm just resetting my Peltis to need them to shoot forward here. I'm ready to collapse on these cavalry if necessary, because again, if he wants to take a fight here, all of his Cav is going to die to the javelins of my Peltis. So I was ready to take that fight, but you know, I got caught here, and now I'll just run away. More javelins here, just keeping my Jav Cav in touch with his Cav. And again, more infantry coming. I didn't waste the javelin volley here. I said no, I want to use it on your Cav, and I do. So again, now these guys are down to half strength. And I think they're looking quite good for me, obviously. I have all my Peltis alive, which again, remember, these guys are beasts in melee. They haven't lost any men, they're full strength, so they can kill Cav in melee, especially with the support of actual Cav, like my armored Dominion Riders. So, even if my infantry, like, ties his infantry, basically everyone dies, these 4 Peltis, as long as my Numidian Cav, some of them are healthy, they can take, you know, they can engage the Cappadocians in melee, and the Numidian Peltis can come in and finish the job. So, Again, he just can't really fight near me here. Now I have infantry advantage even, so now my infantry will take the brunt of these charges, so my javelins can continue to fire. These guys still have more javelins. Yeah, just trashing this cav unit. Finally, he comes with his general. He gets 2 Cappadocian. Like, look at this. He gets in there. Yeah, I lose 13 men here, 6 men there, 5 men there. Nothing serious. His infantry, or his cav, dies, and I can clean it up. So, yeah, he didn't get to my Peltis, so I felt very comfortable there, and I was behind him, threatening his rear with my Jav Cav the entire game. And he didn't have any horse archers to like screen them off, which obviously was a huge advantage. It was a huge advantage that I caught his horse archers, but that's something that Pontus always has to watch out through, right? Watch out for, I said through, but I mean for. Basically because he has 1 cav over there, but right, the entire game, Pontus can never get their horse archers near Numidia's. They just have to be right in the edge of range so they can shoot. As soon, all Numidia has to do is just give attack orders, and you have to keep microing it. And all they need to do is either give attack orders or just retreat, and they can continuously move those Jav Cav around and cause you problems. And if you mess up your micro just one time, the unit that was screening the Jav Cav is just dead. So it's a very powerful strength for Numidia. Let's go look at. Let's see what's. Oh, okay. Right. Here's an example though. I think this is the best example I've ever seen of the horse archers being used like perfectly. This is me versus Ragnar from the Winter Classic Finals 2019. So, one thing Ragnar does, which also should be used, I think, in general, he brings a Cappadocian or a Noble Blood, doesn't really matter, out to the flanks to sit with his horse archers. Again, he's worried about his horse archers being caught, so he says, look, I have a bunch of cav, and I'm also skirmishing at the start of the battle. There's no reason to leave my horse archers alone out here where they could get caught, right? Now, if these guys get caught, like accidentally get too close, they just back up, the Cappadocian comes forward and scares these guys away. Because these guys can't take down the Cappadocian. I mean, maybe 2 versus 1 they can, but with all the supporting fire from these horse archers, it would never be worth it. Literally trading 1 for 1, especially if you have horse archers, trading a Cappadocian for a armored Numidian cab is literally worth it. Because now their horse archers are just, much, much better 2 versus 1 against the remaining armored Numidian cab on that flank. So even if these guys got into a blob and then everyone else shot into the blob, both the horse archers and the other armored Numidian cab, everyone in the blob would die, the Cappadocian would probably still win, and you just traded off your most valuable unit for something that Ragnar has a lot of. He has 2 more Cappadocians back here with a Celtic Warrior cap. So this is allowing Ragnar to actually get a lot more space. You can already see it. There's no point in me even trying to pressure because I can't go very far and he'll always get better shots. So I'm being pushed very far back here. I'm even taking fire now. See here, I'm getting close. Getting close. I might have been able to keep chasing in an ideal situation, but here I just have to back up because, I'll take more fire and never going to catch them here. Might get a few more javelins, but again, not really worth it for me to take additional fire. Have to retreat when he can just chase me once this Cappadocian gets close. So I'm just running forward now. He's taking a lot of space, but again, he can only do this for so long. Once the mainline engagement happens, he will need to use his Cappadocians for something other than defending his horse archers, because at that point, my melee is stronger, I'll have an advantage here. He's gone for something a little weird. He's gone for hoplites in the center here instead of pikes. Could work, but I think it's too expensive in general. It's like, why not just use the cheaper version, which is pikes that also defend better. Of course, these guys will get a few more kills, being more of a melee-oriented unit, but it costs a lot more. It doesn't really give you that much more value. He has 3 slingers, which he's, very nicely defending in the center at the moment. If you can keep them alive for long enough to shoot down maybe some of my cav or some of my light infantry, that will be quite nice for him. And again, here I have to kind of pressure because otherwise he's going to start shooting my cav, shooting my infantry. So I need to like bait out shots with my Jav cav, but I still can't get very close. You can see he's pushing the flanks. The rest of his army is just 3 Pontic swords and 2 Celtics, so decent amount of infantry when you consider the 3 hoplites. There were melee limits obviously, so he couldn't take a bunch more hoplites. Or a bunch more melee infantry. For me, I have 4 legions, 2 light infantry since it was 6 melee max, 3 peltists, 2 cav, 4 vigiles, and 4 armored medium cav. Just making sure I don't have a cohort in here. No, I don't. Actually, I might have a Numidian spear. No. So yeah, that's the army. So yeah, a bit more infantry heavy here. But oh, actually I do have 4 peltists. Okay, that's what I thought. So 4 peltists. So this is okay. I can live with this army because I have 4 spears, so I don't need to use my cav very much. got the 4 here. Here is a mistake. I tried to go behind, but now they're just getting shot in the back. This is not really ideal. I've already lost 11 men in this unit. And he's like, can pressure me. Numidia should always stay in front of Pontus, because what he can do now is he has Cappadocians behind me that are a real threat. I need to put my units between him and flanking. These guys, the Army Mini Cav, are perfect for defending flanks, because if they sit here on the flank, if a cav wants to come around here, they're just going to get shot, so they have to go either all the way around, or you get the horse archers to screen, but even then you probably have to go all the way around, because the Numidian cav can just push these, screening units away, or they have to go with infantry to, screen off these, Jav cav, in which case you're going at the pace of infantry flanking rather than cavalry flanking, and it's much slower. So here I just went for a YOLO here in the center. Again, I have my Pontus here. They're already pre-targeting his cav, so I thought he would countercharge me. He didn't, and he gets a nice javelin volley here with 2 units, so this is not really ideal, since my desert cav are going to die. But I'm going to kill off his Celtics, and my plan is to just rush the flanks, avoid these hoplites, and then kill them with my, my swords as I win the flanks easily, and then I can wrap around. So, getting a good engagement here in the center for me, pretty much. He's not using his cav very aggressively yet, but he has stuff behind me, and this is a real problem, whereas my cav are just always running away, and they shouldn't be running away, but they can't turn around here because he has cav so close. But you can see his Cappadocians took a lot of damage. I did take a lot of damage on my own men, though, to be fair, so this is not really great for me. Here, we got out a bit more cleanly. Here I just took javelins. Couldn't get him hit with the Peltis, so I have to reset my lines here. But I kind of got the initial engagement I wanted. Here I'm killing more cav, so a bit more compensation. I'm killing off his flank easily. These Vigiles should not have been engaged. They should have been standing here, as these guys are. But now you can see, without my Jav cav here, he's easily flanking me with like 3 units. His rear is not really even threatened because his horse archers are still screening my cav. They can't get in here because of his range, is like right there. And he, he's still shooting me with his slinger, so he's able to do damage that way. And again, he's got this cav behind. Here he goes for this rear charge, very nice charge. I'm winning this fight easily, but this rear charge is going to change things. At least make it a lot more even. I will recharge him in succession though. But you can see this charge did so much damage. So now he's going to sacrifice basically his Cappadocian here for all this, but now here comes the flank, and I don't have enough cav to actually deal with this. His horse archers are still living. You can see just bobbing and weaving, taking some more fire now, because again, his micro is not going to be perfect over here. But I'm still also taking a lot of damage. You can see I'm getting shot this whole time. Here, isolated unit just going to get touched for a rear charge. Actually going to recharge this unit too. His cav gets into my my Peltis, but of course they will survive here for a while. They haven't lost too many men. I'm trying to withdraw them. I actually probably should have just stayed in melee here. Now I'm trying to run away, and they, we'll lose a lot more men doing that. Here I second wind my Jav cav. This is very good. You want to keep your Jav cav as fresh as possible. His general goes in for a weird charge here, so I'm going to get a lot of javelins on his general. This is not ideal because my Peltis are also right here. His horse archers are getting nice shots, but his general's going to go down. So now his slingers finally go down. Pretty much as I said, an inevitability. You can't really defend the slingers forever. Because, like, again, your cav has to be active. He had cav behind, so yeah, okay, slingers go down, but they got some decent kills. Not really ideal. Again, that's just why I don't really want to bring the slingers. It does take me time to go get them, but I also kill them for free, and that's 3 units that could have been doing other stuff. But you can see he gets some compensation. It's basically a trap, right? I have to kill them. Now he gets a rear charge with his general onto this unit. It's decent. It's decent. It's not great. And he's also going to take a lot of javelins for this, so that's not really the best. Here, these hoplites are going to go down. I'm going to go through there, to be honest. Trying to go around. I go into square here to absorb this charge better. Still getting javelins into his Cappadocians, but he still has a lot left. He has 21 Cappadocians here, full unit here. Peltis routing on this flank. His general's still alive, so not great. My infantry is better here, but with this other Cappadocian, 58, so he's 2 full health Cappadocians, and my Jav cav is already tired. This is really bad, very tired even. Again, they need to be kept fresh because they're so valuable in melee. If they're tired, they're losing half of their melee capability just because they run around. So this is really not ideal for me. It doesn't really matter how tired his horse archers are because they don't need to go into melee where the the stats actually get reduced for being tired. So I'm trying to use my cav here to get the infantry back into my favor because it's actually going to be kind of sus here because this guy's losing. He has a free hoplite here. I'm going to get a free infantry here, but he has a Cappadocian that's already killing. I have a couple of Vigiles, but okay, how useful really are the Vigiles? Not certain. So this is going to be a close infantry fight. He has all of his Horse Archers still alive, or 3 of them at least, which can be, of course, devastating in the late game. And he has 2 Cappadocians. If you look at it right now, it looks quite good for me, to be honest. But it's not super clear because, again, his Cappadocians are the strongest units on the field, and he has 3 Horse Archers. My Jav Cav have taken so much damage this game. They're exhausted and you know, quite depleted as well. So they're not going to be able to do too much in that regard. So, you know, now I'm just trying to, you know, do as much damage with my javelins as I can. I'm still taking fire, massive fire. Look at this. Now that they're exhausted, he can actually chase because he's actually a bit faster than me. My pelters are trying to do damage. I'm trying to clean up his infantry, but again, his infantry is still quite nice. I do have these peltas, so the infantry, you know, it is in my favor. But he's using his Cappadocians to get those late game rear charges, which are so valuable. They will just do so much damage and morale penalties. So I'm really not look at all these. Look at the rear charges he's getting. So many. They're only winded too, so you know, very tired. Everything is very tired for me. That's been running around at least. I've been able to second wind a couple of my Javcav, but still not many. He loses another Horse Archer here, or pretty much loses it. And now he has 2 Horse Archers, but again, he has super healthy Cappadocians. I sacrificed this Armored Dominion Cav to try to collect this kill, but he has a full strength, or you know, 3/4 strength Kappa here. I have some decently healthy Armored Dominion Cav, but he still has the Horse Archers, and this is why the Horse Archers are valuable. If these were Jav Cav, they would have been out of ammo and very useless at this point, but because they're Horse Archers, they can still keep shooting me, and shooting me, and shooting me, and I haven't been able to kill these Cappadocians. I'm gonna win the melee fight, just about, just about, but I'm really not going to have enough to get out of here. He can now just rest. He can shoot me. All I have is like a Vigile, some Peltis, which, yeah, are nice in melee, but again, they're not going to be enough to kill Cappadocians in melee alone, especially because they've taken quite a bit of damage. You know, they're not full strength anymore, so charges are going to be more deadly, and all he has to do is get a charge on this one armored Numidian Cav to pretty much eliminate it. And his Horse Archers still have ammo. So, really nice job getting his Horse Archers to the end game. And doing a lot of damage to my Javka with them. So that's pretty much like the goal. And you can see he got to my Peltis pretty effectively. And I was able to get to his slingers and get some good action with the Numidian Cav because he was shooting me the entire time. It was just not enough. So here I was just trying to just avoid this confrontation so he doesn't shoot my Cav unit. But his guys are active now, so he's ready to engage. And it's not really close at this point. He gets a nice charge with the Horse Archer to bait the charge out. Gets that rear charge. And enough stuff is going to rout here. Horse Archer is obviously going to go down, but the Peltis just can't stand up to this many cycle charges with the Cappadocians. So, close game, obviously, but he played that pretty much perfectly, even with maybe a less than ideal army, although maybe mine was sort of unlikely as well, or unideal as well. And obviously quite a close game here, but yeah, he has 25 Cappadocians. So really nice play from Ragnar there. Pretty ideal. You can see, even though my Peltis still got some good kills, I think, again, 2 mistakes from me. One was going behind with the Javcav, where he could screen and flank. He could screen my Javcav away with the Sword Archers behind his lines and flank with his Cappadocians still. So my Javcav really didn't get that much map control, essentially. And his use of the Horse Archers, yeah, again, great. And I think the other mistake for me was just wasting my Cav a little too early in the game to not be able to protect my Peltist as much as I could, even without the Javcav. So, next up, let's go watch a more recent game. So again, between me and Ragnar, I'm Numidia and he's Pontus again. This was from the recent QBL finals. And so he takes a very meta army here. Again, he likes those Horse Archers. Respect that. He's got that infantry spam. And he's got a decent amount of cavalry. Not a huge amount, though. But, you know, it's 5 Cappadocians, so... plus a Pontic Royal. 4 Horse Archers for Rag. 5 Pontic Swords. 4 Celts, and an Aegon. So quite a good build from Ragnar. This is very meta, and now I have a very standard meta army as well. I think it's the one I showed. Yeah, 3 Vigiles, 3 light infantry, 4 legions, 3 pelts, and 4 Javcav. So let's see like how things have changed since then, meta-wise, gameplay-wise, all that. So here, again, he's just using his sword chargers. He trusts his micro, I guess he's not putting the Cappadocians, but also because it looks like the engagement's going to happen a lot faster in this case. So he doesn't want to put Cappadocians like too far away from his lines. He wants to get some YOLO charges, it looks like. I have 3 Cav, so I can take charges a bit better. You know, I have my Peltis ready to shoot. There are only 3 Peltis, of course, this time, but that's fine. Moving up to engage here. So my plan is to rush one side, basically, and use these Sigiles to block the other side, kind of, or at least the center. So you can see I'm just charging ahead. He runs away here, so no Javelin's going to be involved in these fights, but it's simply to just get engagements happening. So you can see my Peltis already shooting here. We're staying out of range with the Armored Desert Cav, so it's going to be an infantry engagement up front, baiting out charges and all that. He doesn't want to use his Cav aggressively either, so that's a you know, a valid idea. Nice bait with the charge here. I baited his charge, he baits my charge. He did take a Javelin volley, and I didn't though, so it's a bit better for me. But he's going to try to get a Cav charge there. So he's trying to out micro me in that respect. Here again, he's good micro on the Jav Cav. Here I have to go commit with my Armored Numidian Cav to shoot him here. He's actually getting unshielded side shots, so I can't continue to shoot his Cav, so I have to chase his guys away with one Cav. But he did take a lot of damage on those Kappas. Here again, I eat a charge with my Vigiles, and now I massively slaughter these Cappadocians with arrows, getting really nice charges here. Preventing him from flanking. I mean, again, I'm not preventing him, but he can't really flank here without taking massive losses on his Kappas, so this is quite good. These Cappadocians take losses. His general's taking losses. He did get a really nice charge here, though. He baited me, and then he charged with his general. This Cappadocian is dead. Or no, maybe not. No, it's 16 men, and this one's 46. And I'm already wrapping his horse archers here, so, again, his horse archers, this is expected. You can't really prevent it. You know, he's taking a lot of losses here, unfortunate for him, but I'm using my Javcav in really good spots, I think. Also able to get, you know, behind him here. So he's using his Cappadocians, but not for long. Here he's also still blobbed a little bit, and quite blobbed here, to be fair. 2 Cappadocians in this fight, so they're going to take good losses. Close infantry fight, though. He's got more infantry than me by a lot, and my Vigiles are all dead. So he's winning over here, but again, does he have enough material to stop the Javcav in the late game? You can see the terrorization is already happening here. He does have some Javcav, or some, some Cappadocians in my rear lines, but he's also, you know, I have a big Cav unit right here, 56 men, that can go and deal with this threat. It was the one from the middle, because the one on the right died. And now here you can see, isolated here, no Cav to block the Numidians. I will take a little bit of fire here, but he's also worried about this unit, so he can't really shoot both. So I'm going to get a free recharge here. These are always going to be devastating. Active, not tired Numidians, very important. He's also getting some recharges on me, however. But again, this is okay. I can afford to lose some of my infantry here to kill his Cav, because I have better Cav in the late game. Still have all my Peltis. I'm winning some melee engagements at least, although they're now being, you know, suffocated by some more Celtics. But I have all my Peltis. I have some good melee engagements here, now that I'm rear charging. And I'm killing his Cav, crucially. His general is going to go for a bit of a risky charge here. I always have enough melee Cav to just counter-charge him. Here, these Peltis were out of ammo, I guess. And now his general has to go for a risky charge here. He does have infantry support coming, so not terrible. But he's going to take a lot of damage for this. His horse archers are still alive, however. That's good. He lost only 1 in the center here, as I was flanking him. But I'm getting a lot of recharges here, so we're both getting recharges on different flanks. But his Cav is slowly dwindling because my Peltis were all alive and shooting him during that time. His general is getting shot, focus fired. He has Cav behind, so he can't run away, he just has to go for it. And yeah, it's not really going to work out for him, I guess, because his horse archers, I don't think, he played it too quickly, I think. He didn't let his horse archers get more shots on my Javcav, unlike the other time. So here I was able to let my Javcav do a lot more work, and the infantry engagement, I had a bit better engagements because I had those Vigiles out front, had the Peltis ready to shoot. So that's, yeah, it's just a bit better for me. And now it's just clean up. Like, yeah, he does have a lot of infantry, and it looks like it might be close infantry-wise, but it's really not going to be because I have the 2 Peltis, and look at this, 55, 59, 15, and 58. So 3 of my Javcav were fully healthy, so they're just going to clean this up. The general's dead. And yeah, the horse archers can now shoot my Javcav all they want, but they're not going to win because they don't have enough ammo. And again, you can see the catching the horse archers there, even though they were running away. But yeah, a solid win there. So that's, yeah. Those, I think, yeah, it's pretty much like some of the general strats. There are some other ideas, I think. Yeah, I think we can watch one more. which is me versus more, me as Pontus, and get to like why some of these strats, or like some other things that you have to do to make the strats like work. So going into this battle on pyramids, so a bit different, maybe less ideal, but my army for Numidia here, or Pont, sorry, very cap heavy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Cappadocians, 1 Celtic Warrior cap, so something we've seen with Ragnar there. 4 horse skirmishers, and naked swords 2, 3 Celtics, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Celtic swords. So very similar to Ragnar's army. And actually it's exactly this. Maybe it's not the same, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. So Moore has a very interesting army here. He has only a couple of armored Numidian cav, and he's playing them very passively, and he's basically boxing because he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Numidian or Desperate Legionnaires and a bunch of light infantry as well, 4 light infantry with 1, 2, 3, I think 4 Peltis and 2 Numidian riders, not armored riders. So he's just boxing and he's saying, "Come at me, I'm gonna win the melee fight." And you have 4 Jav cav, sure, but they're not very useful. And your cab is not going to be able to do enough against all his infantry spam, with these guys being held in reserve with the Peltis specifically to kill cavalry in late game. So the problem, and I can just reveal what happens, is I attack too frontally. Basically, is my problem. I'm getting nice shots here with my jab cab, trying to do something with them, get some value out of them. Even shooting infantry in the back is okay because the javelins do so much damage. But basically, what happens is if I engage frontally, then my cav get too much damage on them. But what he's doing is he's giving up all sort of flank pressure, or flank control. And you can see that, right? My jab cab is all over him. What I should be doing is putting infantry and cavalry all around him. He has no way to aggressively attack me. He only has 2 cav plus the armored Numidian cav, which you can't use aggressively. So he cannot defend flanking maneuvers very well, because his Peltis are looking, can only look in so many directions. So they all want to look forward. That's fine, but then I can come from the side. And instead, so let's see what happens here. I go for the frontal engagements. You can see he's already shooting me with his Jakev, his Peltis. So I get nice charges, that's for sure. But I'm also going to take a lot of javelins. Let's see. These guys, okay, they only lost 4 men so far, not terrible. Trying to get in here with Jakev, but I'm trying to flank, but I should have been setting this up beforehand. He doesn't have any slingers, I'm not under any pressure to attack. I should have put like 2 infantry and a cav behind, like sort of what Ragnar was doing, right? So that right now, his Peltis would have to look behind and forward. But instead, they're just all looking forward, and they're just obliterating the Cappadocians, taking so much damage. Nice charge from the Numidian riders, you can see. Very useful against those naked swords. He will take a lot of damage anyway, but still worth. Here, I'm finally getting cav into the flank, but again, he could just counter with his slave infantry and with his armored Numidian cav, even with his riders here. So these cav don't have any infantry support. I am winning in the center here, but my cav are just taking so much damage. Look at the frontal fire here, just absolutely destroying my cav. So again, there was no reason to not flank. So I think that's something that Pontus needs to take into considerations. Can they flank, and how easily can they flank, and try to get around to get to those Peltis? Because then if I don't get to the Peltis, I'm gonna lose. It's just it's just not possible. So if we just skip, look how much damage my Cappadocians have. So now is the phase where I can finally flank, because I've tied down most of his infantry, or at least I will. I have 1 full Cappadocian. My general is full strength, so that's 2 units. A third, and then 1, 2, 3, or I guess 2 Cappadocians that are very weak. Maybe 1 is dead. This is actually a noble blood, but whatever, same diff. And all of his Peltis and all of his cav are still alive. So I'm getting some shots on this jab cav now. That's pretty decent. Oh yeah, here's another one that's very low. So not ideal. Again, still more frontal charges. Is this really necessary? Not sure. It is a nice charge. Again, these are very valuable charges, but could they have been done better in terms of angles? So I'll finally get into 1 Peltis, but now I just get shot by his Javcav, the second line of defense, as it were. His infantry is still doing quite well, because he had so much infantry. There's no way I was ever going to win that straight up. I needed my cavalry to be healthy enough to take over in the endgame. But to do that, you have to kill the javelins, and it's not really being done. So yeah, 34 Cappadocians, 20 here, 46 here, 25 here. The general's full strength, or 50, not even full strength after 1 charge. Very low. And now his armored Numidian cav are still quite strong. They go into melee here. He's got Peltis support. I only have so much support here. I'm trying to kill these Numidian skirmishers, but he just has more Peltis, more infantry, so my Cappadocians just get ruined. No infantry support on the flanks. He did have more infantry, obviously, than me, but if I just pressure him from the flank, either has to turn more infantry to the flank, and then I can go from the center, and I can surround with my cav. So I think that was the thing that was missing here. I was doing with the Jav cav, was fully surrounding him, so I might as well just put some cap. I had 6 cavalry total, 5 Cappadocians slash noble bloods, or maybe even 6, and the general. So there's no point to not putting a couple units behind. I can easily YOLO with 1 or 2 units on each flank frontally, but I can distract first with the Jav cav and with the Cappadocians, cause some pain there. And now my general is just like hopelessly recharging things. His Jav cav, it's, you know, it's taken losses, but not enough losses because his cav, you know, is much more numerous than mine at this point, and he still has Peltis alive. He still has infantry. You know, his infantry is losing, but he has a full unit here, or not full, but between these two units, it's a full unit, and some small units, you know, left over here and there, and my infantry is all very depleted. He still has the key to the battle, the Peltis, very healthy, haven't taken too many losses, and now they go into melee and just, you know, completely dominate. My general, again, dies to another javelin volley, and yeah, everything is just gonna crumble here. So, again, it was a decent strategy from Moore, I'd say, but I don't think I handled this properly. I think, again, flanking is just so key. If he's gonna give up the flanks because he only has 3 armored Numidian cav, you should take it as Pontus and just go behind just all the time, I guess. But yep, that's that. So yeah, I think those are some of the key ideas. Let's see what other ones left are there. Oh, this is actually a good battle. There are some more good battles. They're all on my YouTube in other places if you want to look at like pikes and stuff, but I think that's pretty much it for now. So hopefully that gave a better idea of how to play the matchup. Very interesting one. Didn't really show pikes getting used, I guess, but that's pretty straightforward. They just block. Again, if you want to look at the Master of Numidia semifinals against Tila, that's where this game is from. That one had pikes. The Summer Classic finals against Tila, where he took a very infantry-heavy Numidia, had a bunch of pikes in it for me. So those are some good pike examples. But yeah, overall, hope this helps. It's a very good matchup, very fun. Jav cav everywhere. You know, Peltis. It's very interesting units. Very mobile. You know, you have a lot of like Peltis are mobile, Jav cav are mobile, Cavalry pretty mobile, HA. So a lot of mobility, a lot of like tactical positioning, different strengths for for each faction. So very interesting. Hopefully this helps, like I said. And if you have any questions, let me know. I can try to answer them. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Peace.